There exists within the human psyche a forgotten dimension, a vast, uncharted territory where time bends, symbols breathe, and the boundaries of individual consciousness dissolve into something far more ancient and profound. Carl Jung discovered this realm through what would later become known as the Red Book, but what few understand is that this was never meant to be a mere book. It was a living testament to a psychological revolution, a detailed map of the hidden pathways that connect our surface minds to the oceanic depths of collective unconsciousness. You've sensed this dimension before, in those moments between sleep and waking when impossible knowledge floated through your mind, in the eerie precision of coincidences too perfect to be random, in the dreams that felt more real than waking life. These weren't anomalies. They were glimpses behind the curtain, brief openings into the vast hidden architecture of the psyche that the Red Book describes in cryptic, painted pages. What follows is not interpretation but direct transmission. The same methods Jung used to plumb these depths, adapted for our modern age. This is not reading. This is awakening. The journey begins with recognition of a fundamental truth. Modern humanity suffers from a peculiar form of starvation. We are drowning in information while being starved of wisdom, glutted on data while malnourished in meaning. The first step requires creating what medieval alchemists called the vas hermeticum, the sealed vessel in which transformation occurs. For us, this begins with a radical act of detachment. For 72 hours, you must enter into a self-imposed exile from the modern world's psychic pollutants. No screens, no written words, no prefabricated narratives of any kind. This creates what Jung called the vacuum of the soul, a sacred emptiness into which the unconscious can finally speak. You'll find this more difficult than any fast, for the mind addicted to constant stimulation will rebel violently. This rebellion is the first sign you're on the right path. As the digital static fades, you'll begin noticing something extraordinary. The world around you, the one you thought you knew, starts revealing hidden dimensions. That corporate logo you've seen 1,000 times suddenly appears as what it truly is, a modern sigil designed to bypass conscious thought and speak directly to primal layers of the psyche. The patterns of crowd movement in a subway station unfold as precise rituals of social conditioning. The advertisements plastered across the cityscape transform before your eyes into the mythology of our age. Every image and slogan carefully engineered to trigger specific emotional and neurological responses. This is not imagination. This is perception without filters. Jung called it seeing through the veil of Maya. The recognition that what we call reality is in fact a complex symbolic language. The Red Book emerged from this state of heightened symbolic awareness, and you're now standing at its threshold. At this stage, begin keeping what medieval mystics called a sun and moon journal. By day, record every instance where the external world seems to speak in symbols. By night, document your dreams with the same attention. Within weeks, you'll notice an impossible pattern. The daytime symbols and nighttime visions begin converging, forming a coherent dialogue between your inner and outer worlds. This is the first true communication from the unconscious. The next phase requires courage, for it involves direct confrontation with what Jung termed the shadow, those disowned aspects of ourselves we've buried beneath layers of socialization. Identify 3 recent emotional explosions, moments of disproportionate anger, shame, or obsession. These emotional flares are psychic breadcrumbs, marking the locations of unintegrated fragments of self. Here we employ the Red Book's most powerful technique, dialogic ritual. In your journal, give voice to these emotional states as if they were distinct entities. To man, they reveal their origins. Challenge them to explain their persistence. The answers will shock you, for you're not merely remembering. You're conversing with living aspects of your psyche that have developed autonomous intelligence in the basement of your unconscious. As this dialogue deepens, initiate what Jung called active imagination. In meditative states, visualize these psychic fragments as characters in a shared mental space. Observe their interactions without interference. This is direct observation of your psyche's architecture, the equivalent of a neurosurgeon watching living brain tissue at work. You'll witness alliances form, conflicts erupt, and most remarkably, the spontaneous emergence of mediator figures who resemble nothing so much as the archetypal guides depicted in the Red Book's elaborate paintings. Now comes the most dangerous and transformative phase: synchronicity engineering. Begin documenting coincidences with mathematical rigor, noting not just their occurrence, but their emotional context and psychological aftermath. You'll discover these meaningful coincidences cluster around specific themes. These are your psyche's growth points, areas where the unconscious is attempting to communicate urgent information. At this stage, employ dream incubation. Before sleep, pose urgent questions to your unconscious in writing. The subsequent dreams won't answer in words, but in symbolic landscapes that bypass rational defenses. A businessman might find himself in elaborate dreams about tree roots. A scientist might dream of ocean tides. These are not metaphors, but direct communications from the deep psyche in its native language. After approximately 40 days of this practice, you'll experience what Jung called the crushing epiphany, the irreversible realization that what we call reality is merely the agreed-upon projection of our collective unconscious. The elites of every age have known this secret, which explains their obsessive control of symbols, narratives, and collective rituals. They understand that whoever shapes the unconscious landscape controls manifested reality. The final stage is what alchemists termed the rubedo, the reddening. Your dreams will become impossibly vivid, carrying the emotional weight of waking life. Synchronistic events will multiply to the point of statistical impossibility. And most remarkably, you'll begin noticing subtle but undeniable influence over external reality, not through force of will, but through what can only be described as resonance with the patterning intelligence behind the fabric of existence. This is the true secret of the Red Book. It was never about the content of Jung's personal visions. It was about the methodology, the precise techniques that allow a human mind to consciously engage with the unconscious forces that shape our reality. Those who master this process become something more than human, yet more authentically human than most can imagine. They become conscious participants in the creation of reality, rather than sleepwalkers in a world someone else designed. The path cannot be unwalked. The knowledge cannot be unlearned. But for those with the courage to persist, the reward is nothing less than the rediscovery of your true nature, not as a passive observer of reality, but as its co-creator. The choice, as always, is yours.